How do you guys feel about the red mic? About the red condom on the mic? Maybe I should get it. I don't know. It makes me feel. I don't know. I think I look kind of like a clown with this. Ironically. Let me know how it goes. I'm back in the studio officially. I went on the road to do shows with some friends, fellow comedians as well, and I had a lot of fun on that. Definitely a learning experience for many, many reasons. But yeah, I'm officially back in the studio. I forgot I even had this before I recorded the pod in the car that's gonna come out before this. Again, apologies for the delay on the last video. It's just difficult doing all this by yourself. So, which explains why there's no clips. Like I don't have like a clips channel on YouTube, nor is there like clips on my Instagram. Unless like if I do post clips for this show, it's gonna be guerrilla style, meaning it's just gonna be a clip. It's not gonna be there's gonna be no subtitles. There's not gonna be going back and forth between the article that I'm referencing or the video that I'm commenting on. There's not gonna be any of that, at least not for right now. And hopefully in time we grow. We grow the audience. We grow the revenue because there's zero right now for this show, for this project. And then obviously I'll either pay someone to do it or I'll do it myself if I have free time to edit the clips of the show, and then we'll get started from there. But yeah, I'm back finally back in my own place. Well, this is not my own place. I live with people, but I'm back. And what's been going on with me lately, this has been like a very interesting experience because when I went on the road, I spent maybe 4 days, 5 days without taking cannabis edibles before bed. Because that's what I would do is I would take 2 to 3 to 4 sometimes cannabis weed gummies, and I used it as a way to go to sleep. But since I went on the road, we went to Oregon. That was one of the spots we hit up for shows, and I found out about this thing called CBN, which is basically like the melatonin of the cannabis industry. And I tried it, and for like maybe 4 days straight, I did not do any cannabis. Thankfully, I was in a very constructive, productive mindset of wake up, do comedy, maybe eat, hang out for a little bit, come back, and go back to sleep and do the same exact thing for the next couple of days. That was the schedule that I was on, which is why sometimes I value just having a 9 to 5 job because I like structure. And it was those circumstances in the shows that I did recently, which is why I stopped doing cannabis gummies, and I found a much better alternative because the gummies essentially just kind of made the insomnia that I had at the time a little bit worse because it didn't really make me it made me sleepy like an hour after the high was over. So now I'm just experiencing, I want to say the dryness of sobriety, because this is absolutely excruciating. Because, with the amount of things that go on in my head day to day, and the amount of ranting to myself I do, and the amount of shit that I talk, and the amount of running around I do all around Los Angeles, it's nice to have something to look forward to at the end of the day. Cannabis for me was like like a shot, like a shot of alcohol before you hit the hay. But it's not like that now. Now I have to be sober. It's not that I have to be. It's just I'm choosing to be, because when I got back and I recognized just how much more clearer and stable and sharper I was, and more in alignment, and just more what's the word I'm looking for? More spiritually, physically, mentally, and emotionally aware. It's like not being able to, because almost for I want to say months in a row, I was just doing cannabis gummies every single night before bed, and I use it as a way to unwind, but before I went to sleep, because at the time that's what I thought was like the best way to go to sleep, because as a comedian, our jobs start at 8 o'clock. JF Harris has a hilarious joke / Instagram tweet about it, where he goes, as a comedian, our job starts at 8 o'clock and most of us can't even do that. And it's absolutely correct. Our shift starts at 8 o'clock, sometimes 7:30 if you want to be a little bit early like me, and uh, a lot of the people don't assess how much caffeine is in our diet as a comedian, I think, or nicotine for that matter. I stopped vaping, thankfully, and I stopped just all nicotine products just in general. And I don't vape anything now. I used to vape cannabis, and now I stopped doing that altogether. So now we just consume it, like by digesting it. But now it's a little bit different, very, very different for me. This is different. It's bittersweet. It's bitter because you kind of miss the cannabis, and you can say there's like an element of withdrawal, but I'm not really going through that. I already hit that when I was on the road, but I was so focused on the interactions I was having with the people that I was in the car with, and doing good on the show and hosting and running the door. I had 50 other things going on in my head that I put in front of missing cannabis that just made it all worth it, and it helped get me through that period. So now I'm here and I'm doing this, and what I felt doing cannabis compared to now, it's like it's essentially like being drugged. Even after because I didn't realize how hungover I was the next day after doing all this, after doing so much cannabis. Before bed, obviously, because I didn't do it I never did it during the, I used to be a huge stoner back in high school and et cetera, and I used to love that. But, yeah, we could talk more about that. Yeah, back in high school, I was very, very depressed, to the point, and by the way, any person that's like, well, what do you have to be depressed about, when you're a child, suck my dick, all right? You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. None of you know what you're talking about. Now, mind you, this goes back to Bill Maher's thing, which I saw as a clip. There's a lot I want to talk about. I'm just excited to do this, to talk to you guys. But as a kid, I would say that. We go like, I'm depressed. And then people would be like, well, what do you have? Adults, fucking dumbass adults would be like, well, what do you have to be depressed about? Now, there's a difference between internally not feeling as if you belong anywhere, being ostracized, not having any friends, having a horrible experience, bullying, being socially awkward, having low self-esteem, all the things that I want to say the average teenager in a pre-Andrew Tate or pre-social and spiritual improvement and spiritual enlightenment wave that we're in now. We're talking years ago, from 2014 to like 2018, that was the time I was a teenager. Things were much, much different back then. So there's a difference between that and what Bill Maher was doing on his video recently. I might pull that up later because I do want to get into this gun thing later on. But Bill Maher had like a younger girl on his show. Like, I don't know. I think she was like in her 20s or some shit like that, 19, 18. And he was like, well, what do you have to be depressed about? He was like, what do you have to be so concerned or worried about? And then she goes, well, with what's going on in the world right now. And then he like hilariously was like, I don't know why young people keep saying that, because I've talked to all of you and none of you know what's going on right now. I actually know what's going on in the world right now. I should be depressed. I should be anxious. That is absolutely correct. Now, I'm not one of these people, and nor was I one of these younger people who said that I was depressed because of what's going on in the world right now. I'm not Jaden Smith or anything like that. I was depressed because of what was internally going on, in me. Like, I genuinely hate all the people that go to this school. I don't intellectually connect with any of these people. They're all dumb, and obviously there's a little bit of vanity in when I say that, but more so just I just couldn't have a conversation that I enjoyed with any of these people. I didn't really like them, and they didn't really like me for that matter. I wasn't really friends with any of the people at this school. Obviously, there were a couple of people that I still keep in touch with here and there, but, most of them I'd argue just did not see me as a friend outside of school. Most of the friends that I had in high school, most of the associates, most of the acquaintances that I had back in high school, it was one of those cliche situations where you're only friends with them because you see them every day. So that was that was a bit of my high school experience. I mean, obviously there'll be more time to go through that later on, but that's just essentially what that was what it was like for me. So so yeah, when I was younger, I was like a sophomore in high school. No. I believe I was entering sophomore year. So it was the summer before sophomore year kicked off. I understood how depressed I was and read up on the benefits of cannabis, not knowing or rather ignoring the psychological, potentially permanent damage you could do to yourself as a teenager smoking an abundance of weed. But those were some of the happiest memories I've had as a teenager around some of the dumbest snakes you would call people. But and then ever since then, it's just been an up. It's been like an ebb and flow and an up and down, shifting in and out of just going on this sort of like mindful and responsible binge of cannabis, because I don't drink at all. For those of you that don't know this about me, I don't drink. The only times I don't drink, and I've never been drunk before. And whenever I get really, 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 really depressed, like something really bad has happened, or I'm just going through like a very, very tough time in my life, what I will do is I'll just go out and I'll buy like the most drinkable beer I could find, which is either a Bud Light, it was before what happened, a Bud Light, like a Corona, or like whatever the fuck, or most recently a White Claw. Mind you, by the way, out of all the alcohol, out of all beers to like put as like the forefront of this trans movement, you'd think it would be a White Claw. Like it wouldn't be like a Bud, but whatever. What I do is I just take like a couple of sips of a Bud Light or a White Claw, and then I wouldn't even drink the whole thing. I would just pour it down the drain. I would drink a little bit of it until like I got like maybe like I felt a little something. And mind you, I use this term so loosely. I mean like literally like a couple of sips. And then I would listen to like a really sad song. I just pour it down the drain and I just go to bed. So that was what it was. So yeah, overall, so all that in context, a lot of my life has just been shifting in and out of like extended periods of just smoking or consuming cannabis and then not doing it at all. Like when I got out of high school, I just was like, I reached a point, especially because I was going to New York at the time to do background acting, and then we were planning to moving to LA, and I also had a job at the time. I was just like, yeah, I'm just not going to do cannabis anymore because it just doesn't serve me. I like being sharp. I prefer to be sharp. I tell this to everybody. Everybody's like, oh, you don't smoke, and you don't do. No, I don't. I prefer to be sharp. And if I am going to use any type of substance like that, it'll be, I'd like to think, for a very productive or pragmatic reason. I'm like, I need, so the reason I would say I needed it, quote unquote, the cannabis now, was because like I'm waking up at 2:00 because I was out all night doing stand up. I'm waking up 12 to 2:00 in the afternoon when I'm off, obviously. Then I'm consuming 200 milligrams of caffeine via Celsius or Red Bull or Bang, which is 300 milligrams of caffeine. So we're looking at, in just one energy drink or two, equal to 2 cups of coffee or 3 cups of coffee. And I'm doing that, which stays in your system for about 6 hours. So by then it's like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 a.m. You still have all this energy, even after, especially after you've gone up and you've done well. Nothing can compare to the high that you feel after you do that. So you're all the way up here, and you need to bring it down. So, which is why I would do the cannabis, because I'm like, I can't be up at 1 a.m. unless I'm writing or editing or doing something else productive. But I'm like, I'm so tired. I want to decompress. So that was where the cannabis came in. So, but now I have CBN, so I'm really happy about that. I really want Celsius to sponsor me or CBN to sponsor me, just because there are a lot of products I think I could sell very well. But yeah, so that's just been me catching up with you guys. That's what's been going on in my personal life as of late. But that was also informative about me. So we will be right back with the next segment. See you guys in a second. Apparently the guns are the problem. So informed. So this is an article that I'm reading that I read on, that's how I find material, is that I follow people that I disagree with. And then they repost things that I think are funny. So we're just going to read this along, and then we're going to go over some comments too, and then we're going to put it in post. So let's see. So the gun's the problem. Now this comes 2 weeks ago after the shooting. Every time there's a mass shooting, they just have to tell you. They just have to go. It's like it's like a Black Friday sale. They're just selling you the ideology right after the bodies aren't even cold yet. There has to be an infograph on Instagram. So there have been 129 mass shootings in the United States so far in 2023. It has been said millions of times, and yet it must continue to be said until our legislators actually listen to the people of this country and do something about the preventable gun violence. The guns are the problem. Now, I don't know if there's been 129 mass shootings in the United States so far in 2023. We are in April. I'm not entirely sure if that's true. However, I do have an issue with the term gun violence and gun deaths, because people keep doing this in their articles whenever they're trying to sell you on, again, it's a sale. Whenever they try to sell you on why we should get rid of all guns entirely in the United States, they use terms like gun deaths and gun violence. And then I'm just like, well, what is that? What can you define gun violence, and can you define gun deaths for me, please? Because you can't. And I had this debate with someone in the comment section where they were like, well, does it matter what gun violence is or what gun deaths are? And I go, yes, the fuck it does. It does absolutely matter. Because if I tell you that 20 people died yesterday due to knife deaths or knife violence, and you'd be like, well, I guess we got to get rid of all knives, and I conveniently left out that 19 of those people slit their own wrists and committed suicide, and only one person got stabbed in an argument, then you would think that you were doing the right thing, and you would think that you were saving all these lives by getting rid of knives. So yes, it does absolutely fucking matter what you mean by gun deaths and what you mean by gun violence, because I'm pretty sure statistically most gun deaths are the result of suicide and are the result of handguns in the United States. I could be wrong on that. I'm not one of these. I'm not on the right either. I don't have like. Yes, there's a laptop in front of me, but I'm not going to do the research, because there's always some shit around the corner. There's always somebody like, actually, that's wrong, even with the numbers and statistics and stuff like that. So, if the theory that, quote, more guns equals more safety, end quote, were even remotely true, then the U.S. would be the safest country in the entire world. Underline, we're not. Well, I just want to say, for starters, I'm sure people were making that argument, but I don't agree that that is the argument, because there's a lot more nuance to that, and that's a very nebulous thing, that more guns equals more safety. I would say to an individual, I'd agree that a lot of individuals feel unsafe in their cities, and I'd say you as an individual should probably get a gun. I'm getting a gun very soon. I have multiple that are BB guns, but in most cases, you just have to show it. So they're like, okay, more guns equal more. I don't think that that's ever been the case. I don't think more guns, quote unquote, is such a saying. I don't really agree with that. What I will say is just, if you feel unsafe, a gun would help. More guns equals more safety. The U.S. is home to 120.5 guns per 100 civilians. We are only a country in the entire world that has home to more guns than there are more people. Now, here's why this is hilarious, right? So they're giving you a statistic. They go, the U.S. is home to 120.5 guns per 100 individuals. We are the only country in the entire world that is home to more guns than there are people living in the country. And we are 25 times more likely to be killed in a gun homicide than individuals in pure countries. Now, let's go to the next slide, because I've read this before. The U.S. is home to less than 5% of the world's population, yet holds 46% of the world's civilian-owned guns. Now, if you go closer, if you zoom in right here, it literally reads, the U.S. has estimated 393 million firearms. Right beneath that, it reads, this is only an estimate, because there is currently no database that tracks whether people own guns or not. So all the numbers you just gave me are complete bullshit, if that's the case, right? Math is not my strongest. I'm wrong on math, right? I'm horrible at math. But why are you giving me all these estimations if there is no database that tells you who has guns or not? It makes no sense. It makes zero sense, dude. The average American has like 15 vats of acid like Jeffrey Dahmer in their house. Now, I'm just going off of the top of my head because there is no database that tells you who owns vats of acid or not. So, more guns, quote unquote, equals more safety. I'd go, listen, well, that's not really so that's a very nebulous and it's a very cherry picking what argument you want to attack. Because what do you really want, though? What's your intention behind this? Your intention is to stop or prevent mass shootings from happening. And it's like, right, the obvious solution is to have armed guards or rather armed teachers. If the kids, which I think most teachers before all this happened would tell you, is that the children are their responsibility and they are under your care as a teacher or as a caretaker. So I think it's your responsibility to take care of the child. No, like I remember when I was in high school, I believe like one of the teachers told us, and I just didn't really believe it because I didn't know, I was unaware of this, but he goes, yeah, if somebody comes in here and tries to hurt one of you kids, I have to step in front of that. I have to step in front of that gun, or I have to step in front of that knife. That's a part of my job. This is what the teacher said. I don't know if he's correct, but I'm like, doesn't that mean that as a result with all the mass shootings now, like you kind of have to you should be mandated to get a gun as a teacher, you know? But I understand that people disagree with the whole concept of arming teachers. And I go, well, do you want to stop? Do you want to prevent mass shootings or not? Because all the mass shootings occur in a no-gun area, you know? And I've made this argument several times before and times over. It's like there's a reason why there's rarely any to none like gun store mass shootings. There's no mass shootings in gun stores, and there's no mass shootings, and there's no mass shootings, and there's no like robberies at gun stores, and there's no mass shootings in like the Pentagon. It's because there's no like Area 51 mass shootings because it's like heavily guarded. It's heavily you wouldn't get that far. And then there was another tweet that I really enjoy. It was right when Hogwarts Legacy came out, the video game, the Harry Potter video game, when one guy was like, how come there's never been like a mass spelling at a Hogwarts institution? How come there's not been one kid that went in with the wand and just like shot all of his students, right? And then someone responded with, well, they could do it, but they just wouldn't get that far. And then he was like, why? Because all the teachers are carrying? So it's just like, I think that at this point I'd like to think that we've matured beyond this feeling. It doesn't matter what you feel, because when you bring up these arguments, when you bring up the very clear fact that, you know, in a scenario where most people behind the wall have guns and know how to use them and aren't afraid to use them, that would discourage the intent behind most mass shooters, which is to kill a lot of people. You know, it doesn't negate, like, that's a very clear fact. Like, if you have a lot of guns and you know how to use them and you're not afraid to use them, it's going to deter people from trying to harm multiple people at once. And then when you bring this up, people go, oh, well, I don't think that somebody in the comment section in that response was making that argument. They were like, well, I don't believe that teachers or the average civilian should own a wand that has like max spell capacity. They were using the argument they use for like assault rifles and shit, where they're like, oh, well, you shouldn't have a gun that has this many bullets and yada yada. And it's like, nigga, again, no matter how you feel about what average citizen has what gun and how many bullets should be in that said gun that the average citizen should hold, how you feel about whatever citizen holds as many guns, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. The fact of the matter is that if your intent is to kill a lot of people in an area that has no guns, like a school, you're going to be deterred, you're going to be discouraged, and you won't do it if you know that the majority of people inside that school, be adults, be kids, be armed guards, have guns, professionally are trained to know how to use them, and will kill you if you try anything. The chances of it happening are less than none, despite whatever your feelings are. Because people love using that. They're like, oh, well, you know, I don't feel like I think the average, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I dare you to try to shoot up a gun store right now. You feel as though the average American shouldn't own an AR-15. The average gun store owner does. They know how to use one, and they have it behind the counter, I bet. So go ahead, try to do it. You can't. So just that's it. 50% of the country does not even require a license to carry a gun. Yeah, I'm not one of the. Here's the thing. I'm not one of these people that's like that thinks that we're completely fine where we're at. Obviously, there should be certain. But then when they say, "Oh, we should have stricter gun laws," it's like, well, what do you mean by that exactly? Like, what do you think that we're not currently doing to get, I'm friends with a guy who was like, well, I was once at a gun show, and it was, you could just like pick the gun up in front of the, and I'm like, okay, yeah, right. So if you go to a gun show, right, and they sell it to you, and it's easy to do that, right? Like I think they do background checks at gun stores. I'm not sure if they do, but like, it's one of those situations where it's like, again, it's very easy to get a gun at a gun show, but like, if your intent is to kill a lot of people at a gun show, do you genuinely think you're gonna get that far? Imagine if this is how you guys sound to me. I don't feel that people should own guns at a gun show. Huh? Then someone who has a gun is just going to kill you. Just cut it out. So, yeah, that's just what it is. 15, that's 20. So all I'm saying is just maybe cut it out. Maybe cut it out with the gun shit, please. But let's just go deeper into this. The majority of Americans want to see common sense gun control implemented in the country. Now, again, what does that mean? What does that mean exactly? A February 2023 Gallup poll. So it's a poll. So we just asked random people. When people try to like convince me of something and they say we did a poll, what that means to me is, so you went to a college and you asked a bunch of fucking college kids. That's essentially what that means to me. That 63% of Americans are dissatisfied with the current gun control laws and policies in place, the highest it's ever been on record. A 2022 survey found that about 2 in 10 adults in the U.S. have either been personally impacted by or have someone close to them who have been impacted by gun violence. Did you interview anyone in Chicago? U.S. is in constant state of crisis due to gun violence. All right, again, what does that mean? Don't let the Second Amendment worshipers fool you. Gun control can and does stop gun violence. So again, they just keep saying gun violence. I'm like, can you define it, please? And they keep bringing up New Zealand, and they keep bringing up the United Kingdom, and they keep bringing up Australia. I mean, if you talk to people who have been to the UK, they'd say it's pretty bad over there regarding theft and just regarding crime just in general. I mean, look at how easily your phone gets stolen in the UK. Look how easily you get stabbed in the UK. Look how easily you get beat the fuck up in the UK. Just because the UK or Australia or any... Australia locked their citizens in the house during the pandemic. What do you mean? It's just so funny. Like, they keep going to these other countries, and then you look at like what's actually going on in these other countries, and you're like, I don't think guns would necessarily solve their problems, but the lack of guns isn't helping either. But yeah, like literally I think they let Australians out of the house yesterday. Like they just let them out, In China, there's no guns in China, right? Correct me if I'm right. No, there's probably guns in China. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I don't really give a fuck about. Canada they had like an entire convoy in Canada regarding the vaccine mandate because of, sorry about that. I probably should cut that part out because I want to get monetized, But yeah, so the UK, there's tons of stabbings, there's tons of knife thefts, so much so to the fact that there are video compilations of like people recording themselves via hidden camera showing how easy it is to get your phone stolen in the UK. I think that like a guy had his like phone hanging outside the window, like he had his phone in his hand just as an experiment, and then a guy was like walking aside the car trying to look for the opportunity to take the phone, So many people have heart attacks in the United States if their phone just goes missing for like a couple of seconds. So I can't get behind this idea that so many of you have that, the guns are just going to completely, I'm just saying. That's just what I'm saying, So we're going to wrap that up. We're going to wrap this segment up real quick. I am no longer willing to listen to the "it's my Second Amendment right" argument while body bags containing children are piling up in this country. Well, you really want to talk about dead children? A guy asked me, by the way, what's the leading cause of death for children in America? And I was like, abortion. I love it when people just keep talking about like the death of children becoming a problem at the hands of guns. And it's just like, right, but do we really want to talk about dead children? If we're really, do you really get a chance? Do you really get to have a say about, what kids are dying via gun violence, quote unquote? Because, that's just interesting to me. Anyway, contact your elected officials and all right, I'm not gonna fucking go into whatever. But yeah, okay. So I'm not able to view the replies on this, but Americans really need to properly research the Australia and not only how extremely successful they've been, but also how much the people of Australia appreciate, respect, and value those laws. Our sticks to show it. Again, they literally locked Australians in the house. You could only go to your backyard for like 15 minutes. See you guys in the next segment because they keep bringing up Australia as if they didn't. Good luck. Anyway, yeah, we'll get to the next segment of this. Goodbye. I might go a little bit more personal on this segment, on the third segment, but we're back from I really should start doing commercial breaks, but anyway. That's another thing too, because it might not make sense out of context, but I will start doing this. I will start, because I do need an intro for the show. So I'm just going to make my own intros, or I'm just going to use songs or like clips from old YouTube videos or old ad campaigns that I think like are really, really good or really, really catchy that I enjoy. And it's going to be like a bit of nostalgia. We're going to start off the show with a bit of nostalgia as more time goes on, but I don't know. It might be Fruit of the Looms in this episode. It might be, I don't know, the McDonald's, that McDonald's choir thing that I used to do at the end of my videos before this channel, but whatever. But anyway, being away from this and doing this show, or scratch that, rather trying to do this show with people at the time that I thought I had a better connection with and that I thought I was more comfortable around, truly made me appreciate doing this. And it made me appreciate talking to you guys and just doing this as a practice and just having it as an outlet. So, and the age-old saying, like, you don't really, appreciate what you have until it's gone or until it's taken away from you. So, and in my case, I'd say that this podcast and this show, despite having only my mother listening to this, I value it. I think it's fun. I enjoy doing it. I think it's, I like doing this. I like discussing these things. These are just, it's a way to get whatever's going on in my head out. And I think I think it's like a net positive as a comedian and as a person and as an orator to do it. So, obviously, we will have guests on. Well, I shouldn't have said that. It's not obvious, but most assuredly, we will have guests on in the future. A lot of recurring guests, a lot of people. We will probably interview some professionals. I'd like for that. But I tried to do this podcast with some people. I did ask around, et cetera, and I did do some test podcasts with some people, for which we will not release it. Just because I just didn't like the energy. I didn't like how they react. I didn't like, the energy. I didn't like how they acted. I just didn't like how they treated me at the time. And, and it was just experiences like that. It was experiences like trying to do the podcast with people that I found out did not respect me or did not treat me the way I wanted to be treated, and with the same kind of respect and the same kind of courtesy and the same type of comedic recognition that I would on to them, to then watch them not be invested in it was absolutely, I want to say, an eye-opener, and it reinvigorated my love for this craft, I think. I think we reached a point now where we can say that podcasting is a craft. So, thank you. Thank you to everyone listening right now and everyone watching. And again, apologies for the tardiness because of the whatever. But the delay because of, I was on the show. I was on the road doing gigs. But, But yeah, hold on. Yeah, I'm not crying. But anyway, yeah, this is what's been going on with me. Towards the end of this whole trip, yeah, just had a lot of fun. Definitely talked to some people, had some fun, had definitely an eye-opening experience. There's not much going on in pop culture that I really wanted to get into. The Little Mermaid, the more set photos and the more snapshots that come out from that movie, the more this movie looks like a slavery movie, you know? And I've gotten into so many debates with fellow stand-up comedians to the point where now there's like bad blood between me and a few comedians because I went so hard against the grain regarding this Little Mermaid casting. So just up top, I want to say Halle Bailey is absolutely gorgeous, and she is an amazing singer. Her and her sister are very talented. They clearly know what they're doing. They're very, very beautiful people. You can have that. You can acknowledge that and then also disagree with the casting because it's literally the same exact story, same characters. I think everyone is still the same white, except for like the Jamaican crab, right? Or the lobster, or whatever the fuck that sea creature is that's singing the songs. Everyone is exactly the same. Ursula is still played by and voiced by a white woman or whatever and what have you. Everyone is still white, but it's just the mermaid that's black now, which is like, why not just make why not do Hamilton and like I didn't see it, but like, why not just do that? Either keep it exactly the same and have everybody be white, or do something different and have everyone be black. Like, black it up, please. You know, it was just very, very unoriginal, very lazy thing that Hollywood is doing and that they keep doing, and it's been said ad nauseum. But a lot of people just got really upset with me, and you keep hearing the argument. I love hearing the argument that people make regarding Ariel. I love the argument that people keep making because they keep saying things like, "Oh well, it wouldn't make sense to have It wouldn't make sense to have a white Black Panther or a white Luke Cage because their blackness is cemented, it's written into their character." And it's like, correct. Now, would you say that fictional white characters originally created by white people, would you not agree that whiteness is written into their characters? A black Bruce Wayne wouldn't fucking make sense because no wealthy black couple would take their child down a street literally called Crime Alley at 11:30 at night with no guns as well, unless the black couple has guns on them as well. And if they're black, let's be honest, they probably would. So it wouldn't make sense to have a black Bruce Wayne because that just simply wouldn't happen. For example, Glass Onion, right? I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's a scene in this movie where a black woman lets there's a scene in Glass Onion, without any context, there's a scene in Glass Onion where Janelle Monáe, who is a black woman, lets Edward Norton into her house. That just simply wouldn't happen, okay? No one, I just can't see it, not after American History X. I would not, that was the movie, right, where he played the Nazi a little too well. I just wouldn't let Edward Norton into my house. I loved you in Incredible Hulk, but that's just, I just can't. Hey man, I'm gonna take a piece of chalk and I'm gonna draw a line on my porch. You can stand behind that line. So it's just this is what the left does. This is what liberals and progressives do. They cherry pick when race matters and then when it doesn't matter. Okay, so it's just hilarious to me when people keep saying that, oh well, it wouldn't make sense to have a white black. It's like, yes, it would, because you're essentially saying that blackness can be written into fictionally black characters, but whiteness can't. Right? White people, according to the left, don't have a culture until we're going kayaking or skydiving or spelunking or cave jumping. Then it's, oh, that's white people shit. Or white people are afraid of nothing except black people, right? And it's like, isn't that a culture? Wouldn't you say that's a white activity? Wouldn't you say that's whiteness, right? Going skiing, wouldn't you say that's a white activity, right? So if I took a fictional white character who goes skiing and then I made an adaptation of it and I made the character black, you could see a black person loving skiing, right? So does race matter or does it not when it comes to fictional characters and representation? Because people love talking about representation, but I see all these fictional black characters who were originally white characters not smoking any menthols. Mind you, I never understood the stereotype that black people like menthol. Whenever people said black people like menthols, I never it never hit with me because like I grew up around Jamaicans who are, I grew up around black Jamaicans because Jamaicans is a nationality. It's not really a race, but I grew up around black Jamaicans. I grew up around like Hispanic looking Jamaicans, and like I grew up around black people. I never saw them smoke menthols, which is interesting. Like that's one of the, like how sometimes stereotypes don't really hit for you because like you grew up around a different type of people, grew up around a different subset, grew up around a different type of culture. That's sort of what it's like for me whenever people say, menthol is like a black thing, because I'm just like, is it? I don't. Like, I get the scratching the serial number. I get scratching the serial numbers off of a gun, right? Or I get not having a registered firearm as like a stereotypically black thing. But that was what was interesting to me, was that menthols never really hit for me. Because I never, I grew up around skaters who are, some of them were black and they smoked cigarettes, but like that's just like a skater thing, that's like a entire subculture of, they call them like bogeys. When I was in high school, they called, I think that's like a black stereotype where they have like what they call a loose cigarette a loosie, where we called them bogeys when I was a teenager. I apologize if you can hear my stomach growling in the background. I am starving. I just stopped home on my way from Bellflower. I just finished an open mic to come record this because I genuinely wanted to do it that badly, but we're going to come to an end soon towards the end of this. But, I've just had enough of this leftist progressive bullshit when it comes to creativity and it comes to fictional characters. Just, Michael D'Angelo, hilarious comic that I know, had a very good point regarding Spider-Man Homecoming, right? He didn't like that Zendaya was supposed to play Mary Jane Watson. And I was like, really, why would you say that? And that's another thing too that everyone does whenever there's like a fictionally white character that's now being recast as a black person. Everyone in the fucking comments is like, oh, all the racists are getting upset. I love all the racist tears and all the people, and it's just like, yeah, I love. So anyway, Michael D'Angelo, hilarious comic, was like, I hated that movie. I hated what they did to Mary Jane Watson because it's like just he said this. He goes, just give Spider-Man a black girlfriend. Don't just make up. He said this to me. A white guy said this to me. And it was interesting. I was like, huh, it's actually a very good point. He was like, just give Spider-Man just a black girlfriend instead of casting Mary Jane Watson as a black woman. Like that changes anything, or like it does something different. Like I'd rather him just, and I was like, yeah, that does make sense, because if if you're still caught up with what's going on in Marvel Comics now, I think they just kind of like out of thin air created a new little black girl that is now the smartest character in the Marvel universe right now, in the comic universe at the very least. And then they had that news story that came out after the fact that said Letitia Wright's character, who is Shuri in Black Panther, she is now the smartest woman in the universe. And when the news broke out, people who obviously didn't read the comics or is not even up to date on what's going on in Marvel Universe, they were like, oh, well, all the racists are mad at this. And I'm like, I disapprove of that, because it's like, I know you're really talking about, what was that woman's name? I think it's like Miss America or some shit. I don't know. It's some cool name. It's like America Chavez, where they're trying to be like coy about it. I don't know. The little black girl's name is like White Supremacy or something. And then she's the smartest woman in the whole Marvel universe. And she has like a pet dinosaur or some shit. Genuinely, I'm not kidding. It's not the one from the Runaways. But it's one of those situations where you're cutting corners. Don't make Letitia Wright's character Shuri in the Black Panther the smartest woman in the universe. Make the actual black little girl that you created out of nowhere, like Miles Morales, and have her be the smartest unit, and have a story about her. Why are you just make a black girlfriend for Peter Parker? But anyway, yeah, so the same argument that you leftists are using, which is, oh, well, the whiteness is written in, the same argument that leftists are using, which is that, the blackness of Luke Cage and the blackness of the Black Panther are written into the fictional characters, so it wouldn't make sense to have them be casted as a white person. It wouldn't make sense to put Ryan Gosling in a Black Panther suit, because in the story it's written that Black Panther is black, or Static Shock is black, or Misty Knight, my favorite Marvel character, is black. It's written in the character. I'm like, great, you're right. But it's like, whiteness is also written into these characters. It's not explicitly said outright, but it matters, right? It has to. I just can't see certain black people doing things that white characters do in a live action adaptation. It just doesn't make sense to me. You don't think that like a black Bruce Wayne, you don't think that they would accuse him of being like a satanic pedophile? You don't think the black community, you don't think the Shade Room would do you think that the Shade Room would convince everyone that Bruce Wayne, if he were black, was, involved in some sort of pedophilia, human trafficking ring or some shit like that? You don't think like after the third Robin, after like the third little boy following him around at all these award shows and these banquets, that you don't think that like black people would kind of like look at him weird? Like, why do you have like all these little kids around you all the time who are orphans? Why? That's all I want to say for you guys tonight. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. Make sure you follow me on all social medias, Instagram, Facebook, at Josh A. Shakespeare. And, friend me on PSN, on PlayStation Network, at Shakespeare Josh, or Josh A. Shakespeare, whichever the one. I forgot. I haven't signed on in years. Follow me on Apple Music. I make playlists for fun, Shakespeare Josh. Please like, share, and comment on the video. Tell me what you thought was funny. Tell me what you want to talk about on the show, and I will give you a shout out on the platform. Send me videos. I will respond to them. I will react to them on the show as well. We will make jokes about them. We will have other comedian guests. And this is me signing off. And I just, from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys, truly. Bye.